Welcome to All Things Battlefield Earth, and we are on part 5 of the movie versus the book comparison. So thank you for joining us. Now we pick up where Johnny they thought they've escaped. Turl orchestrated this event to where they would think they had escaped, and they've been trying to get away for, I would assume, days. Now in the book, Turl did the same thing, but it was just Johnny. He was able to get away, and he traveled as far as he could travel, but his tongue was swollen. He had not drank anything. He had not eaten anything. He was starving. And so very, they go along the lines of the book very well. Turl is basically, before, Turl didn't come after him with button cameras and things like that. He did have a little flying drone that followed him around. Johnny had no idea about this little flying drone, and that's how Johnny knew where he was. It would just kind of keep up with him. And then Johnny describes Turl moving as though he had all day long, as Johnny heard the heavy footsteps of the cyclo coming toward him, basically after he was observed eating rat and drinking water by plunging his head into a stream. Turl come through a net over his head, and then slowly came about and captured him. Now, the scene we're looking at now, they used an actual movie theater for this, an old movie theater that was no longer in use. So I think that's a nice touch. Again, the scenery in this movie, the people who found the locations, I think it's just brilliant. Canada was used as the backdrop of Denver, and I think it was very beautiful and very well done. But here you see Johnny seeing the rat that now Turl's got button cameras on all of them. And now I believe that is a matte painting there to make the theater look more grand and more decrepit. But beautiful matte painting, by the way. So Turl's got button cameras on all of them, and he's watching them eat, and they're sitting around joking about the leader eats first, and but the other two are holding back on eating rats because it was just such a disgusting idea. And even Kerr there is thinking, oh my god, this is disgusting. But Turl thinks, he's the clever, masterful Turl. He thinks, oh great, I have really figured something out here now. We've got leverage over man animals, and they're going to have to do what we tell them to do. And that was the joke in the movie as well as the book, and it worked out very well. But here we see our heroes reluctantly chowing down on raw rat. They didn't really want to cook anything because it might draw attention to Turl, who undoubtedly was tracking them. And there is Floyd, the guy that Johnny had to fight for control of the group, because Floyd was kind of a dictator. He wasn't being fair to everyone, wouldn't let everyone eat, and Johnny's like, no, that's not the way it's going to be. So there was a fight, and of course our hero Johnny wins. But here Johnny, too smart Johnny, is realizing that, wait a minute, he felt something move on his body, and he thought, well, something tried to bite me. Then he realizes that it's a button camera, that they can see us. And Kerr is kind of laughing at Turl, because Turl thought he was so smart, and yet this man animal figured out what a button camera is and how to, in fact, disable the button cameras. So very interesting and funny scene. But then Turl realizes that the jig is up, and they go get in their cyclo battle planes and go and collect the man animals, thinking they've got the upper hand. And of course Turl, in a rage, gets upset because he hits his head on a low ceiling, so he's demanding the man animals come in and fix it. And Kerr is just kind of speechless as Turl has his little hissy fit, is the best word to call it, I suppose. Now here's Turl and Kerr heading toward the city to scoop up their man animals. Now they're in Aspen, Colorado, obviously, as the sign tells us. And they hear the battle planes, and they're at an impasse. They can't cross this huge canyon. So Johnny, out of an act of desperation, is going to try to jump this canyon, and as he does, of course, Turl comes flying up and toying with him. So they all split and try to get away once again. If you hadn't noticed, the common theme here is Johnny can break away from just about anything, but he always gets captured. But you know, in the book, he broke away, but he didn't try too hard to get away because he knew that he needed the knowledge. He had to be there to learn, because knowledge is what was going to save mankind from the evil Cyclos. But at this point, they're still trying to get away. Turl enjoys being, you know, the smartest Cyclo, the smartest person around, until finally Johnny has two battle planes converging onto his position, and there's not much he can really do. But I do want to point out that, you know, the movie was very took a scene that was anticlimactic, more or less, in the book, and that's what movies are designed to do. Screenwriters, or you know, that's what they do, is make things, you know, dramatic, theatrical, beautiful. You know, so we got these two battle planes swooping in to get Johnny. You know, whereas the book, and not taking nothing away from the book, but you know, Turl was very nonchalant about the way he just slowly came about and got Johnny. Now here in the movie, this was not in the book at all. However, Cyclos are very cruel. This is a little funny scene that was deleted from the special edition, but Kerr says maybe they can fly, and Turl's like, man animals can't fly. And Kerr's like, well, just because you haven't seen one fly doesn't mean they can't fly. So that here's Floyd, and he finds out the hard way in order to teach Kerr that man animals cannot fly. So our buddy Floyd took one for the team. And I was talking to a fellow fan, and I liked her outlook of this. She said that he landed in the water and was found by beautiful native women, and became their king or something like that. So very cute, very good way to think of the outcome for poor Floyd there. So as Johnny comes back, in the book, he spends, after he's captured and finally is able to eat and drink, not long after that, Turl introduces the learning machine, and it's basically a recording device that Turl brought a table and a chair into his mud-ridden cage and let him, learn. Well, movie again, they are very good with the theatrics and making it, a beautiful movie. Turl, first of all, is pissed that Johnny is trying to break into his computer, but there again, he's thinking, okay, wait a minute, this man animal is smarter than the average. He takes risks, he does things, and maybe we can teach him to do things. So Turl takes him into this very expansive, very beautiful room, and he sees this three-dimensional image, this hologram of a Chinko, and basically Johnny realizes that he's supposed to learn at this point, and this excites him very much because, again, Johnny's smart enough to know that the only way you can beat him is to learn who they are, what their weaknesses are, in order to fight back. So Johnny begins to learn, and his friends come in a minute looking for him after Turl steps out, and they pull him off of this thing, and they're like, oh my God, there's this God machine. And Johnny's like, no, it's a knowledge machine. It teaches you. So Johnny chooses to get back in the chair and to continue to learn. So very much like the book, Johnny had the opportunity to escape again and again, but he chose not to, because he chose to do what no one else were able to do, and that's fight back in order to take back the planet. So you see Turtle here. He is the infamous collar that Johnny wore, and then finally, whenever Chrissy and Patty were captured, after a year they were made to wear the collars, and Johnny was let loose in order to do the mining. So very much in tune with the book, with how, of course, Patty was not in the book, as so many other characters were also, for time constraints, not in the movie. But I do want to point out that so many elements of the book are in the movie, and I think when I look back at the negative reviews the film got, I think that, you know, Travolta was trying to appeal to everyone. You know, they kind of lightened it up, you know, tried to have a lighthearted movie to where everyone could go see it. However, had they followed the book more closely, the movie would have gotten an R rating. It would have been a very scary type of film, because these Cyclos would be brutally, you know, killing everything in sight as they do. But hats off to the production team and Mr. Travolta, because nowadays that's every movie you see on TV, whether it's Netflix, movies that are released. Everything is has a violent nature. I go back and watch Battlefield Earth frequently because, you know, you even like Turtle, even though he's a backstabbing kind of a guy. He's in it for himself. Travolta even jokes at one point that it's like Pulp Fiction 3000. And what he meant by that was that in Pulp Fiction, and for me, that was the first movie I ever watched where the bad guys, you loved them. They were bad, they were killing people, but you loved them. So ultimately, that's what he was striving to accomplish with Battlefield Earth, and I personally love it. Thank you for watching.